Okay. Okay, so thank you guys for hopping on the call today with us. My name's Anne and I'm the marketing lead at Reis Informatica. I'm going to be your host for today. And for those of you who don't know, Reis Informatica is the leading provider in managed IT services and cybersecurity. We've been celebrating women all month long. If you haven't already, I really encourage you to head over to our website, check out our blog. We have some really great tips from women in the industry. And okay, we're going to get to our agenda. So we're going to go through some hot topics with our speakers. There will be an opportunity to answer questions. If you do have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to type them into the question box, or you can email me them, and hopefully we'll get to all of them. And before I introduce the speakers that are on the call today, I just wanted to let everyone know that unfortunately, Ezra, who was supposed to be here, she's from Apply Board, she's under the weather, so she won't be able to join us today on the panel. But the good news is that we're going to feature her in a blog, so check back on our website for that. She'll answer some more questions. But yeah, for now, let's just meet the speakers that are here for today. So we are so excited to have Lisa on the panel today. She is the VP Founder Services at Communitech and Managing Director at Canada's Tech Network. Lisa, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you started in the industry?
Sure. Thank you, Anne. It's a pleasure to be here. So I kind of fell into the tech world. I'm not trained as a technical person. So just to sort of layer that in there, I'm in a non-technical role and have always been, but have been in the tech sector for, close to 20 years now. I started at BlackBerry. So it was called Research in Motion at the time. It's sort of it was the hot tech company in our region, Canadian created and built and headquartered in Waterloo, Ontario, Canada. And it was kind of the place to work. And so when I had the opportunity to join, I did, but I joined in a community facing role, building relationships there, spent 7 years there, saw it through all the exciting times when it was, on Oprah's favorite list and all the celebrities had to have it and all of that. But I also was there for the times when it started to fall and was no longer competitive. And so I lost my job there as part of the layoffs, and then started at Communitech, and I've been there for almost 10 years. And really what Communitech is a not-for-profit organization that has a goal of helping tech companies start and grow their businesses. So I'm working alongside, hundreds of tech companies and helping to connect them to the right resources. And one of the programs that my team leads is called Fierce Founders. And that program is specifically focused on helping women and non-binary founders build their businesses. And there's, several programs in that suite of service that help those entrepreneurs or founders grow their companies. And so although I'm not in a technical role, I do work very closely with those tech companies and those founders. And so I'm hopeful that today I can share some of those insights with the group.
No, that sounds amazing. It sounds like you have a ton of experience. So we're really excited to hear from you. And we'll get to our next speaker, who is Christine, and she is joining us all the way from Texas. She is the Chief Strategy Officer at Texas Systems Group. Christine, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
Thank you, Anne. Kind of like Lisa, I fell into the tech world. I was looking to move from San Antonio to Austin, and I came across Texas Systems Group, and they gave me the opportunity to come in as the HR and office admin. And then they quickly, within 6 months, allowed me to move over to manage the operations team, which is the core of our business. We are a managed IT provider like you, Anne, and so I have been able over the last almost 10 years to work in the business in various roles. As you see now, I'm in a strategy officer position, and so it's been a great learning opportunity.
That sounds amazing as well. So we're excited to hear from you too. And lastly, we're thrilled to have Supriya on the call as well with us today. She is joining us all the way from Mumbai, and she is the CEO of Coding and More. How are you doing, Supriya?
I'm well, thank you, Anne.
Good. Tell us a little bit about your background and your company.
So I'm so happy to meet all of you, and it's interesting how we have a common thread amongst us. So I did my undergrad in math, so it's not tech, but the way I look at it is I did math, and then coding was applied math, and I've been an educator for about 15 years, but about 2.5 years back, I realized that coding is applied math, and I fell into AI. I literally stumbled into the AI curriculum for young kids, and that's how Coding and More was born, where we are an edtech, where we teach young children about AI and coding. So I'm the founder and the educator at Coding and More, and we have a team of only women educators. We are a women-run company, and we are on a mission to bridge the gender gap. And yeah, so
I love that. I love that you're all run by women. That's amazing. Okay, let's get into our hot topics. So our first hot topic is, why do you think it's important for women to join the tech industry? I know that a lot of women have been joining lately. It's growing, but is still very much considered a male-dominated industry. Christine, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's a great question. I believe that women bring a really different perspective and emotional intelligence than men do. And so this diversity is able to help enrich the culture of businesses, of teams, as well as either the service or the product that the company actually provides to its clients or end users.
What do you think about that, Lisa?
So I completely agree with Christine in that, diversity in thought, diversity in just sort of approach is really important. And of course, if 50% of the population is women, then we, I often see what happens is people hire their own friends. They hire people who are like them, and then it just sort of perpetuates, a non-diverse team. So, or I'll hear people say, well, I would hire a woman, but there's not enough women. And it's like, okay, well, there is, you just need to look, but the more of us there are, the easier that will become and the more commonplace. I do think there's just some basic fundamentals about why we need more women in tech. Again, 50% of the population, tech companies are growing like wildfire right now, and there's simply not enough people to fill those jobs. So if you exclude women, or we're not doing what we can to encourage women to pursue a path in tech, we're just so much further behind with the talent pipeline, right? If we have in our region, I think we have like 5,000 open job recs right now. I mean, it's only getting worse. So we need more of everybody to apply for those jobs and to head in that direction. So yes, I think the diverse thought at the table is super important, and the value add that women can bring, but there's also just the basic fundamentals of like, we need people doing these jobs.
No, definitely. It needs to be promoted more, because I know that in my experience, I am completely new to tech. I've been in my role now for just under a year, and I had no idea that I could get into this industry in marketing. You know what I mean? Like, there has to be more kind of like exposure out there for women, more opportunities for like education. Supriya, what do you think?
So, I like to add, I agree with both Christine and Lisa that a diversity of thought, because that brings more innovation for the products. B, as you said, Lisa, very correctly, 50% of the population is women. So that should be represented even in the tech field. And thirdly, being in AI, what I realized is that now AI is coming in every industry, in every business. And AI is built on data. And if that data is not presented by women, by all the different ethnicities and age groups, you're going to have biases. The algorithms are going to be biased. And then the technology that we build is not going to be fair or a good representation of the world around us. So, which is why I think it's even more imperative that we have a more, holistic, mini model of the world in every company, especially tech. So, and I also wanted to add, Lisa, you said very correctly that, when we hire, we tend to hire our friends. And why should women not have good role models? So the more women we get, who are not only in the tech field, but also in the C-suite positions, that's how you, sort of build on mentoring and role models for other girls to follow suit.
That whole see it, be it, right? Like if you see someone else doing it, you can do it too.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
no, definitely. Okay. Let's get to our next question. So this one, I'm sure everyone on the call can relate to. It's been a really crazy past 2 years, to say the least. The question is, how do you feel the pandemic has affected the industry? I know a lot of companies in tech went completely remote when the pandemic started, and some are now transitioning from working remotely to a hybrid model. So are your companies doing that? Or are they still working remote? How has it affected your work? Lisa, how did Communitech handle the pandemic?
So we went fully remote when the pandemic hit, and now we're back to a hybrid model now. I think we learned a bunch of things over the pandemic, right? We learned how to do meetings like this and not be in person. Before, you would have had to invite this group of people to be in person at an event, and we would have tried to sell tickets to, or get tickets to get people right in the room. Whereas now we've got 3 different countries represented, and we can all be here at the click of a button, which is super cool. I do think it has changed who we hire, how we hire, and what our expectations are. And I don't know that we've completely adjusted or figured that out as an industry, to be completely honest. I think that will evolve over the coming years. And I think anyone who thinks they have a baked plan in place is wrong, frankly. Like it's going to continue to evolve. There's benefits to in-person, there's benefits to hybrid, there's benefits to fully remote. And I don't know what the sweet spot is for all of those things. I know for me, I have a 45-minute commute into work. I'm not anxious to go back to doing that 5 days a week. That just for me feels like not the best use of my time. But I was in the office yesterday, and it was amazing to see my colleagues in person. And, I got some really important work done that I couldn't have done in a world where we're only now meeting when there's a purpose in place, right? When you look at your calendar, the meetings you have booked are very tactical in nature. They tend not to be those things that happen organically in person. So I think it's going to continue to change, but it certainly has allowed us to be open-minded about where we hire from, which can help with diversity for sure, right? It opens up the world. I'm seeing some great work from companies like Van Hack, who are helping to recruit women from all kinds of different countries, both virtually and in person. It's cool. I think it's been good. And I think tech has thrived in the pandemic for the most part. Certainly some companies haven't, but it's not a sector that was impacted super negatively, like things like hospitality and tourism, unless of course your tech companies in that space. But many of the companies we work with are actually thriving more than they ever have before.
I think one thing that companies are going to need to overcome in this change, because you're right, there's been a lot of benefits, Lisa, but now we need to reframe as we change to this hybrid environment. What are those benefits? Because it used to be you can come and you're changing your flip-flops, we have beer, we have food. Well, we don't have that anymore at home. We just have whatever we purchase. And so I think that company cultures that traditionally were, the cool cultures and we're all in this together and we're here all in person, we have to reframe that and come up with added benefits to help keep the talent. Because that's another way that tech has been impacted with the pandemic is talent shortages. I mean, everyone's experiencing it. And so now we got to figure out how to keep our valuable employees to be able to continue to run our business. And how do we attract people to want to come work with us when maybe we don't see each other every day and you don't have that fun, cool culture that you used to be able to default to.
Yes, Supriya, your thoughts?
So, you know, we entered the edtech industry just before the pandemic hit. And at least for edtech, it was amazing because before the pandemic, if I needed to know how technology was evolving and I needed to be up to date, I had to travel. I remember that in Feb 2020, I was in 19, I've lost track of time. I actually had to go to the UK to a technology fair to know what's out there in edtech. And, you have to constantly evolve. But when the pandemic hit, suddenly, I could reach out to educators from all around the world. They were accessible. They wanted to collaborate. They wanted to share and get feedback, from different communities. My kids were able to participate in international hackathons all the way from the US to UK to Europe. And we have fabulous workshops, right? All completely, free, because we don't have any cost, right, of hiring places, etc. So in our case, the pandemic was a big positive, because it allowed us to grow. It allows us to learn. It has changed the mindsets of people. And, as far as having that connect and having those meetings, because we're a young startup, we embedded it in our culture that, you don't just meet with a purpose. We have weekly meetings just to catch up and, give feedback on how things are going and just to catch in, because I've not met any of my educators in person. We hired everyone virtually. So it was very, very important that we build a relationship and a friendship, so that also we can collaborate and learn from each other. So we've tried to embed it in our culture as a startup so that people want to work with us and want to stay with us because we made it a family environment. And I hope that, we can keep that, as we grow. So I know that it's harder for already existing companies for them to evolve and find a sweet spot. In fact, I'm thinking of not even going hybrid because it is working. Nothing is not working. So why tweak?
I agree. Yeah. I mean, I used to be a person as well that I love coming into the office, but I've gotten so used to working from home, and like I hate leaving my dog. So, there are benefits from working from home, but then it is also nice to come into the office and see faces and talk to people. That is nice as well. So thank you guys for all of your insights on that. Our next hot topic is, what has been your biggest challenge and greatest achievement in your career? Supriya, I'm sure with your experience, you have some really great insight into this. So what has been your biggest challenge and your greatest achievement?
They both are sort of intertwined because I think my greatest achievement is still evolving, but I wanted to be a change maker where I could break out of my own mindset and enter the tech industry, not having been a graduate in tech. So, I've learned, and now I'm in the tech industry, and I'm inspiring others to do that, where we mentor other women to upskill and give them an opportunity to work with us. And we inspire young children to enter tech. And I've realized that when girls start technology learning when they're really young, under the age of 10, they have no fear. And then they stay the path. The moment they're in middle school or high school, they have set some mindsets that, oh, this is not for me. This is for people good at math. So for me, my biggest achievement is that I know that I have become that wheel of change, where I know that we are making a difference. And having said that, one of the challenges that we are facing, which is a learning, right? That in spite of AI being the buzzword, people don't really understand what it is. They don't, at least when I speak to people, they don't realize that your data, your privacy is yours. It is not to be just taken for granted by tech companies without your permission. It is not to be used without your permission. And I find that because I'm in this revolution of AI literacy, people don't understand the importance and the gravity of it, given the fact that we don't even have uniform laws protecting the common person, right? So that's a challenge, but yet for me, it's a learning point that how can I be an authentic communicator for that, and I have to be creative so that I resonate with the person I'm trying to reach to, which is everyone.
That's great. Yeah. Lisa, what are your thoughts on your greatest challenge and greatest achievement in your career?
It's a good question. I always live so much in the moment. Like I'm the person who's just like, every day is such a great day. And then I forget about all the challenges for the most part. I would say like when I was at BlackBerry, and I don't know that it was a gender thing, to be completely honest, my biggest challenge was more around the barriers with respect to moving up because of my education. So I don't have a university degree. I have a college diploma and my training is in marketing. But I think what I'm really great at is leading people. Like I love leading teams and I love caring about the people I work with and trying to figure out how to get them to accomplish their goals. And I wasn't at the time, and given it was a long time ago now, but I struggled because I couldn't move up. I wasn't allowed to manage people because I didn't have a university degree, which I never understand that mentality, and that it's, if I'd had a degree in anthropology, I'm not sure how that would have helped me manage people any more or less than the education that I have. So I found that to be very challenging. I worried my career would not advance if I wanted to stay in tech. Now, that didn't hold me back in the end, but it took finding the right environment. I started as a program manager at Communitech and worked my way to director. And then I worked my way to, head of a different department, and then worked my way up to VP. And it came from finding the right kind of environment that was open to leveraging people's lived experiences and their skill set and that what they're good at, and focusing in on that. So I'm really proud of that. There was a time where I thought I probably just need to go back and get a degree. And I remember talking about it with my previous CEO, and he just said, like, let's be honest, you're in your 40s. Like it's not going to matter now. What what experience you've had is what really matters at this point. At least doesn't matter here. And so I think just finding a place that's a good home for me to be able to grow myself is something I'm really proud of. And I would encourage people, women and men alike, if you're in an environment that's not suitable for your skill set, or you're not being treated with respect or having the opportunities presented that you deserve, there are other places to work. Don't take that. Like, just move on and find a home where you can grow. And, yes, life is long, like it's a long life of learning. I've taken tons of courses on leadership and done other things in my career path to make sure I'm continuing to improve, but don't stay if you're not being treated with respect. Move on. And again, don't get me wrong, I was treated with lots of respect in other aspects at BlackBerry. It was a great place to work. But it's just, trust yourself and your instincts and what you need to get in order to move yourself forward.
That's some great advice. Personally, I know I moved into tech because in my other role, I kind of felt that like I wasn't being treated with respect. And in this new role, it's a completely different environment, and the team is so encouraging. So I love that. Christine, what has been your biggest challenge and greatest achievement?
So those are kind of linked for me. One of my biggest challenges was overcoming a perception that I came in non-technical, I'm still non-technical, into a tech company. And the team, when I moved from being the office and HR admin to being their manager, didn't think that I had any idea what their world looked like, how I could positively actually impact what they do. And so it took time. Not everyone stayed on because they didn't like the changes that I was making, but we still have several employees who were there whenever I made that transition. And it probably also didn't help that I was the second youngest person in the company as a whole. But it was a struggle for a while, and I was a young manager. I hadn't managed that many people before. And so out of that, I've taken the time to learn, taken the time how to be a better leader. And that has allowed me get to the place where I am today, which is, one of my greatest achievements. It's the progression that I've been able to make in the company, as well as the changes and improvements that I've been able to help bring us. And it's been great just to see the transition along the way.
That's awesome. Okay. Let's move into our next hot topic. This one is in regards to giving advice to women who are looking to get a career into tech, and you guys kind of already mentioned a little bit of advice on that, but what is one of the best pieces of advice that you've ever received, and what advice do you give to women interested to getting into tech? I know from my experience, I mentioned earlier, I got into this industry. I had tons of experience in marketing, but not a lot in tech. So I find I'm constantly learning new things every day because it is a very fast-paced industry. Lisa, do you agree that you just have to constantly be learning? And what advice would you give?
Yeah, I mean, it is going to always change. So what you know today isn't going to necessarily be relevant 6 months from now. So, loving learning is a great skill or a great personality trait to have if you want to get into tech. I would say for me, the best advice I ever received, and the advice I share all the time with other women, is to find a really good peer network. So when you think about your peer network, don't only think about finding a mentor who is sort of like above you. That's important. So someone who's been there and done it and can give you advice. So for me, as a mom of 3 kids, I often will look for other women who have balanced a busy career, who also have children. That's helpful to me to be able to say, okay, they did it. I can do it too. Now let me tell them the pain I'm going through today, and they'll be able to give me some advice because they can relate to it. So find that person. Also find the people who are going through it now. So you should try and find, for me, I have my 2 people that are my equal peer mentors. They're building their jobs in tech. They have children. They're at sort of the same level of decision making in an organization that I am. And I find it super helpful to be able to either send them text messages or just pick up the call. We often do commute calls with one another. And it's just like, here's what I'm going through. Here's the situation. And my advice is to find them not within your own organization, although finding a peer network in your own organization is also helpful, but to have someone you can talk about the details with when they don't know the people is really helpful, especially if you're a leader, to be able to just say, I'm struggling with this situation, and you can talk about it without being gossipy, because it's not actually impacting the people in your, like, you're not with someone in your org. And then also be a mentor, or like be a peer, find a peer who's sort of growing their career. It's amazing how much you will learn from them. You're not only giving back. I have a couple women that I mentor, and I swear I learn more from them than they learn from me. And it's a great way to sort of keep in touch with what people are going through, what struggles they have, and how to sort of tailor your approach to, another generation, and how to serve them as well. So peer networks is by far the best gift that I've ever had in growing my career in tech.
That's really great advice. I'm going to look into that myself. Christine, what advice do you have for women who are interested in getting into tech? And what was the best piece of advice you ever received?
Yeah, so I completely agree with Lisa. The peer groups that I've been involved in, I'm also helping lead one, have been instrumental in helping me get different perspectives, not just from my industry, but from places around the country. So you can compare and contrast experiences, what other people are doing. You can grow off each other. In addition to that, one piece of advice that I give is don't necessarily expect your boss to have the best resources to help you grow. I mean, that naturally should hopefully be something that you can find, which is amazing if you can find it. But I found at some point I was really discouraged because I didn't have the boss that I thought I wanted. And so what I did outside of the peer group was just work on other ways that I could help improve myself, even if someone wasn't pouring into me. And I found a lot of value and promise in that. Having a mentor is definitely really helpful in that way, even if it's outside of your organization. But there's a lot of book resources that you can look into and read to help you personally develop not just direct skills that you're working on, but your emotional intelligence will also have effects far reaching outside of just your company, but also with your family and your friends' lives. And so if you don't have what you need, go looking for it, because I think that you will find, especially in tech, when you do need to learn and grow all the time, we cannot stop changing, that self-help is really going to be a good way for you to be able to move on to maybe something else that's a lot better suited.
Awesome. Supriya, what is your advice that you would give?
So I actually want to first share what was one of the best advices that I got. I find that women self-select out of tech, because their own perceptions. And in my case, again, when I was, contemplating starting my own company, teaching the children AI and coding, I was working towards a perfect product. And, I was putting it off, though I knew that I needed to start and I knew that I had something. And then someone told me that, what, just start, just do it. Don't look for perfection. You get started and then you learn as you go along. You will not have all the answers, but unless you take that first step, you will not get going. And it took a lot out of me, but that genuinely worked because it was a mindset, right? To be humble, and as you said, tech is, changing really rapidly, not just 6 months, sometimes it's a weekly. So you have to, get that energy from learning. You have to have that peer group who you can learn with. You have to be in the safe space where you don't feel judged, and it's okay not to know everything, because that at least you don't know and you know where to find it. And I think, again, the pandemic has been wonderful because now all the resources are out there. Some of them you don't even have to pay for, and yet they're amazing because the universities are doing a great job, by giving out information which is authentic. So you don't even have to worry where you're learning from, right? Whether it's outdated or not. So the advice that I would give to women who want to pursue a career in tech is say, just go for it. Don't be afraid. Don't be your full stop. There are enough people to help you as long as you know that you want to be helped and you're willing to reach out. So
that's such great advice. Yeah. Sorry.
And I just curious, I just thought of two other things that I'd love to share on this topic. So a lot of times when I have young people who've worked on my team, they and I was the same, super ambitious, right? And you want to just like grow your career so fast. The one piece of advice I have is to become really good at what you're doing. Like, take the time to become an expert at what it is that you do. And I was on a call earlier today and someone reminded me, it's like your career spans a long time. So be patient to some extent. It is good to keep growing, but make sure you're being patient enough to get really good at your craft as you go along. Like Lucille Ball didn't become famous or accomplish any of the things on her list till she was in her like late 40s, 50s, right? And this is a common thing. I mean, I'm just starting to get into the really great stuff in my mid 40s. And I've got another, 20 years to go. It's so exciting to think about it that way. On the other hand, also make sure you ask, because I will sometimes, every once in a while, we'll have an employee who moves on and they say, well, I didn't get promoted. And it's like, okay, yeah, but did you have that conversation? Did you make sure to express what you wanted? There have been a number of my promotions in my career where I've written my job description passed it across the desk and said, this is what I think I should be doing, and this is what I want to do. And it doesn't mean you get it right away, but it really lets your leadership team know what path you want to take so they can help you to get there. And, hopefully you work in an environment where people will ask you what you want to do and how you want to develop. But the reality is that doesn't always happen. And your leaders are busy too. And, they might have a number of people who report to them. So don't wait. Have that, you initiate that conversation. You own your career path. We all own our career paths. It is our responsibility to get our professional development training, to identify where we want to go, and to ask for what we want. So it's kind of like both sides, like be patient, but also make sure you're the one taking control of your own path forward.
That's actually some really great advice there as well. The next topic is Q&A, but I had a question. I want to go back to what Christine said, because I noticed in the chat box, Brittany put this in as well, that you mentioned book resources for personal development. So do you have any favorites that you recommend, Christine?
Yeah, and some of it depends on what you're looking for, but I know one thing that it's really helped reading for me is Radical Candor. It's been a really great resource. Right now I'm reading a book by Brene Brown, and she's a phenomenal writer. I actually found that she has some talk on Netflix that is in my queue, so I'm waiting to watch that. Sometimes it's just good to ask. I mean, there's so many books and resources that are out there. It's sometimes hard to choose from them. So just start Googling. I mean, if you're looking for leadership, or if you're looking for how to have, I know I was struggling with having accountability conversations. And so there's a book called Crucial Accountability that I read. And yeah, so those have been really impactful for me as well as my team.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Lisa and Supriya, do you have any books that you're reading or any like podcasts that you would recommend?
So, what I do personally is, because again, I'm very, very excited about the AI, the world of AI and how it's evolving, especially, pertaining to children. So in order to be up to date, I don't read books, but I read a lot of articles. And the ones that I love are the ones that come out by deep learning, called The Batch, which is by Andrew Ng. It's incredible. MIT Tech Review also brings out some amazing articles. And LinkedIn itself has incredible, articles. And because of the algorithm, if you read something, they will send you more. And one podcast, if you are at all interested in delving into the world of AI, is by Cassie. She's the chief technology officer at Google. It's called Making Friends with Machine Learning. She's funny, she's smart, and she simplifies really tough, concepts beautifully. So if somebody wants to get their feet wet, she's a good place to start.
Awesome. Thank you. Lisa?
So for me, I love audio. If we're talking about, busy lives, I find that for me works really well. So, and I use Audible, but I know the library often will have, like, you can actually take out audiobooks for free. I like Audible because there's no risk. So if you buy a book and you don't like it, you can just return it and they'll give you your money back. So I do all my professional development learning on audio. And then sometimes I'll also buy the book if I want to make notes, or, like, for example, Brene Brown, I love her stuff too, from a leadership perspective. I think for women leaders in particular, but women and men, it's excellent. I often have her audio and her hard copy book. And then I, go and search the thing, but, while I'm cleaning, while I'm commuting, while I'm walking, it's like audio books for professional development all the time, and sometimes for fun too. There's nothing wrong with that, but there's tons of good stuff. If anyone wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, I've got a list of probably like 50 books that I love, or I can send them to you, Anne, and then you can share them out with everyone if anyone's interested. But it's a great way to get bite-sized learning.
Yeah, I'll give everyone, I'll be sending everyone your LinkedIn profiles. So if they want to reach out to you guys, they can do that. Now we're going to get into the Q&A. We kind of already answered one of the questions there, but we do have some other questions in the chat box. So one of them is, what challenges do you see in getting women to be more interested in the fields such as tech, coding, math for a young age, as this seems to be a challenge even in the elementary school level? Supriya, I feel like you would be a good one to talk about this.
So, I find that it's a two-pronged challenge because one is a mindset issue where people are sort of, self-selecting out of, doing the coding and the AI bit. Math, you don't have a choice, it's compulsory. But the second part is that you don't have enough qualified educators who are patient and kind, who are willing to make that base so that children have a strong foundation, so that they will go on to pursue and enjoy it. See, it's not just about doing it and making a career. It's also about having fun and generally being passionate about what you do, right? So I think that the question was, what's the biggest challenge and how do you find a solution? Both?
Yes, yeah. But basically, what is the biggest challenge? Because in elementary, yeah, they were saying that there's not a lot of opportunities for children to learn.
So the challenge is because you don't have enough educators, and as far as coding goes, we don't even have a uniform curriculum or a structure to follow, right? So those are the two big challenges. But I believe that with the governance and with the awareness, if we can have more teacher training, more structured curriculum, this problem too can be mitigated.
Yeah, in Ontario, I don't know about India, but in Ontario, they actually just announced that they were going to be changing the curriculum to include STEM, which is amazing for growing education on everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's great. So the next question we have here is regarding remote work again. With the move to remote work, how do you handle separating your work time from your personal time? And they said, for example, normally going into the office, your day ends when you leave. However, with remote work, there seems to be a lack of respect for these same time boundaries. So how do you guys feel about this?
I feel that in tech, we always kind of had a problem with boundaries, at least as an IT provider, you have to always be around, but it comes to be a culture within your company. What are the expectations? And sometimes they are implied and you need to make them stated. Ask, like, what are your expectations? I know I talk to my employees like, hey, if I send you a message over Teams or email, I'm not expecting you to respond at night. If I need to get a hold of you, I'm going to call you. And so that's part of it. But I had some really great advice through a training. You need to make a transition point between work and home life. You need to change your mindset to be able to go to that. So maybe it's a walk, maybe it's listen to some music, but you need to find some way to get out of that work frame of mind to be able to, especially as mothers, which I have two little ones, to be able to really be able to then focus on the family and not bring all that heaviness that may have been from my workday.
Yeah, that's great. Supriya?
I actually realized because, I started my company in the middle of the pandemic, and I didn't realize that though nobody was forcing me to work, those hours. My day started when I woke up, and it didn't end when I slept because I was still dreaming about the work, right? It was passion driven. And at some point, my family said that, listen, you need to have a stop. You need to have a pause, for your own sanity and for us, otherwise you're going to burn out. And at one point I was resentful because I was like, I love this. And what else am I going to do? I'm having so much fun and there's so much positive energy. But I realized that I need to do it, for the longevity, right? Because it's not something you're going to do for a year or 2 years, but this is your life. So you have to set your own boundaries and say, at this moment, I'm going to pause, and this is going to be me time, health time, family time. And it's very interesting, Christine, that you actually demarcated your mental framework from actually physically answering emails, because it's even if you decide to do a digital detox and not answer mails and answer people back, but mentally you have to set yourself free and transition. And that's just a discipline that you have to bring to yourself. Nobody else can do it for you. You have to realize and say, pause, stop, breathe, and just enjoy the other stuff too.
Yeah, that definitely can be a challenge to separate your work and your personal life, especially working from home. Lisa, what are your thoughts on that topic?
So I think there's two different scenarios. If you're working for an organization that requires you to work crazy hours, you need to think about if that's something you want to do or not. I work at all times of the day. I sometimes like working at 5:30 in the morning, and sometimes I like working at 10:30 at night. But I also, that's what works for me, because I like the flexibility. I have 3 kids. I really like going to their hockey games. I take them to their orthodontist appointments. I don't want to miss a Christmas concert. And I like being able to have that flexibility. So what I do is, again, much like Supriya said, for me in my environment, because I'm not being asked to work more than my regular hours, but I do love working and I do find myself compelled to do that. I have had to be very diligent on blocking my calendar, making sure I don't beat myself up when I do those things. So if I'm going to go volunteer in my kids' class from 10 to 11 in the day, as an example, I am okay with that. And I don't need to justify it to myself or to anyone else because I started work at 6 in the morning. And I've done those things to accommodate my life and my flexibility, which I really like. I love going to my favorite gym class of the week, starts at 9:15 on Fridays. And I have it booked in my calendar as do not book over this from 9:15 to 10:15 on Friday mornings. That is right in the middle of the workday. But I feel like it's important for me to be the best I can be. Will I miss it if there's something important going on? Absolutely, I will. But I try and book around it. And so the trick is, though, then you can't feel grumpy when you answer an email at 8 p.m. if that's how you want to run your life. Now, again, it might not work for everybody, right? If you want to run your day where you're working from 9 to 5 and an hour at lunch because that's what feels balanced to you, so you can fully disconnect and be with your family between 5 and when you go to bed, totally okay too. But then you need to control that and make sure you're keeping that in mind. What I often will hear people say is, I work 100 hours a week, or the reality is, if we actually keep track, most of us don't. And I read a good book that I can't remember. I've been sitting here trying to remember the name of it, but they interviewed 100 women who make over $100,000 a year. And they tracked their hours for, what they actually work in a day. And that's like when you take your kid to the orthodontist, that's not work time, even if it's in the work day. And
Right.
Most of us don't work as much as we actually think we work. The trick is getting distracted by your email and letting that creep into your life. That's where I find if I can have some discipline to really focus on being in the moment with my kids, if I'm reading them a book, put my phone away so it's not distracting me, and then being okay with checking it, an hour before I go to bed just to see if things are like cool or not. But I think it kind of has to be what works for you. My life has always been a mishmash of work and pleasure and family. And I don't know if the pandemic's really changed that for me. It's always been sort of this struggle and flexible environment.
Yeah, no, I love that. I'm very much into working out as well. So I love to have my time to have my run, whether that's on lunchtime or before I start my day. But I think it's really important for work-life balance and to be healthy and to have your mindset and get ready for work. There is one more question. We're almost at 12 o'clock, so we'll get to this last one here. Are there any professional development courses or advice you would recommend for women looking to make a midlife career change and to get into the tech industry without any previous experience? They say it seems to be a bit of a roadblock in tech to get an opportunity or looked at without that background on your resume, even though you may have a lot of the same experience or skills that they're asking for. I'm just going to say something before you guys tune in here, because that was kind of me. Like I was applying to a lot of tech jobs in the industry and I wasn't hearing back because they said I had no experience in the industry. And luckily I fell upon Reis, who gave me the opportunity without any experience in tech, but I had experience in marketing. So what are your guys' thoughts on this? Christine, do you have any advice to give for those looking to get into tech that have no experience?
Sometimes you may need to take an indirect route to get to the position that you actually want. There's a lot of strength in starting somewhere, maybe not exactly where you want to start, to learn the business, learn the culture, learn the people, which may give you that experience to be able to hop over quickly or not to the position you really want to do.
Yeah, that's great. Supriya?
So I actually do know that if somebody is looking to get into edtech, a great place to start is, by taking a course at IBM or, Coursera or edX, because at least you get started. And we at Coding and More, encourage women to, sort of reach out, because we help them upskill. Because, when we hire women educators, we want them to have obviously an analytical mindset and some base, but all the learning happens on the job. So I'm sure there are other companies too, who are willing to sort of help women upskill and give them opportunities to join. And so IBM, I know, has a great skill build program, which is a good place to start. And if somebody would like to reach out to me, I'm happy to help. Because we look for women with high EQ, with a growth mindset. Age doesn't matter, experience doesn't matter, but a willingness to learn and want to do is what matters, right? Because if you want to, you can learn anything.
Lisa, do you have any advice?
So a couple things. There's lots of learn to code type programs that are for adults too, right? It's not just for kids. So, and a lot of them are, a weekend course, or there's UX, UI design courses that are, there's lots of bite-sized courses that if that's something you want to explore, just give it a shot, take one. If you hate it, you hate it. If you love it, keep going with the next thing. But Uvaro is another option for anyone who has sort of like a sales background but non-tech sales and wants to move into tech sales. Uvaro is a local Waterloo-based tech company run by Joseph Fung, an experienced entrepreneur, and it's to help people transition into tech sales. And there seems to, from what I can see, it's super successful at matching people, like training them and then matching them with jobs where you sort of test out, the company tests you out as an employee and you test out the job. And then, if they want to hire you, you go from there. So I'm sure there's others as well, but that's one I'm just a little more familiar with. And I'd say sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, we need to think about our careers in 10-year chunks at the most, right? Like you should be growing and trying new things and exploring what the next piece of life brings. I mean, who wants to just do the same thing and learn nothing else going forward? So exploring little bits of education to just see, and then, maybe in your 40s is the right time to take a year-long or 2-year-long course at the local college in coding and get into, programming. There's setting yourself up for that. If you think into the future is a good choice too.
I think there was one more suggestion I had. Now in the tech world, you also have a lot of communities. We are a part of one called Omdena, which is a community of data scientists. So you could even participate in that. And, they work on challenges, real life challenges. So you can work as a collaborator and learn skills while you go along. You can take part in hackathons, because hackathons again give you an opportunity to quickly learn skill sets and also figure out whether you like it. Because before you start on a course and say, oh, this is not for me, maybe that's another way to go. And then again on LinkedIn, you find a lot of women in tech groups, and they tend to be really helpful too. So these are the three that I would recommend.
That's awesome, guys. Yeah, so I will, I'm gonna wrap this up because it's almost 12 o'clock, but I will be sending everyone a recap as well as all the speakers' LinkedIn pages. So if you guys had any more questions for them or wanted to know the books again, you can reach out to them. I'll also send you a link to our blog as well to check out, so you can check out Ezra's advice as well. And I just wanted to thank everyone today who came on to this call. We really appreciate you joining us. And a huge thank you to our speakers that are on the call, Lisa, Christine, and Supriya. Thank you so much for taking time. I know you guys have really busy schedules, so it was amazing to hear your advice and to share with everyone. And if you guys do have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to me, and hopefully we can get those answered. But if no one has anything else, I'm going to let you go and enjoy your day.